And we are live, I do believe. How is everybody? This is Ahsoka episode 4 spoiler talk. Hopefully, between my title and thumbnail, you know it's a spoiler talk since this is live. Nobody's joined yet, but also want to let everybody know I feel a little bit under the weather today. Let me double check my audio. Let everybody. So if I'm not quite as energetic, a little more scatterbrained. I got about 2 hours of sleep last night. Just a lot going on in my personal life that kind of had me all out of sorts, all out of whack. And I think I might have a little bit of a bug as well. But anyway, let's talk Ahsoka, because holy crap. Last week, I was a little bit down on the episode. My first impression of it, I was a little disappointed. It just didn't feel that great to me. The story didn't feel like it was super exciting. Some of the dialogue felt kind of janky. I have, is I in public? I have since then felt a little bit better about it. I felt like, okay, I've watched it again. I think especially after this episode, that last episode is going to feel really good, but holy cow, like I don't even know where to start with this episode. Because it just basically out of the gate was a freaking banger all the way to the end. We had 3 lightsaber fights in one episode, which was absolutely nuts. We saw Ahsoka take on Marok, Ahsoka take on Balon, and Sabine take on Shin Hati. All pretty good lightsaber fights. Probably the weakest was Marok, although it was not bad by any means. None of these lightsaber fights are bad. To me, they kind of combine a little bit of what's great about the original trilogy with a little bit of the flurries of the prequel trilogy and a little bit of just the great effects that the sequel trilogy had, even though their lightsaber fights were not necessarily the best. Although I didn't actually hate their lightsaber fights as much as a lot of people do. So that's my thoughts on that. But yeah, no, all the lightsaber fights. Oh, man, so sorry. Ugh, get that neck worked out. All the lightsaber fights were just absolutely fantastic. They were all unique. Marok's death was a little anticlimactic. Apparently he wasn't really anybody. He just kind of was smoky, a suit of armor that was never really explained. I don't know if he was just kind of not a droid, obviously, but some just kind of creature. Not really an actual person, like a Sith spirit or something. I don't know if that will be explained at some point, or if that's just kind of going to be one of those, oh, that was interesting, that was an interesting Star Wars thing, type things. But the episode moves on from it quite quickly. Ahsoka goes and takes off to confront Balon. And they have a great dialogue. I feel like the dialogue was a lot better in this episode. I'm not sure if it was that Rosario Dawson and I feel so bad. Ray Stevenson, I believe. Ray Stevenson. Rosario Dawson and Ray Stevenson had a lot more dialogue, a lot of dialogue with each other, and it was just absolutely fantastic. Oops, I need to find my little stream. There's my stream, nice. Just in case somebody pops in here. Let's make sure I don't miss any comments, anything like that. But wow. Yeah, no, I felt like this episode, if last episode was kind of maybe the low point of the season, this episode was definitely the high point of the season. Just the action alone was great. It was awesome jumping over to Hera's storyline. Awesome to see Carson Teva again, him pop up. Super cool that he's part of Phoenix Squadron. I'm not sure if he was in Mando. I honestly can't remember. Um, but awesome to see him here. It's always great to see that actor. He's just a fun, chill character. Um, Glad he survived the episode. I was a little worried that they were going to do some kind of gut punch where he got wiped out, but just two nameless pilots got destroyed when the ship jumped to hyperspace. But I'm jumping way to the end of the episode. Holy moly, Brian, calm the F down. Um, but seriously, I didn't even mention the Hu Yang HK droid fight. That was a lot of fun. I'm glad that Hu Yang survived, but that was a great little fight. I wasn't actually sure if Hu Yang was like gonna bust out moves or something. I almost expected him to do like a Grievous thing, like pull 4 lightsabers out of nowhere and be like, woo, but he didn't do that. But glad Hu Yang is all good in the hood, but super cool, super fun little fight. I felt like the Sabine Ahsoka dialogue was a little better in this episode. I feel like sometimes it's been, oh god, I'm so sorry, been a little bit awkward maybe, but this felt really good to me. I don't know if it's maybe the actors are sort of finding themselves a little bit more, all that good stuff, but it's just been awesome. Like I really enjoyed this episode. I feel like the stakes were here in this episode, which I think was a problem I had in the last episode, is we didn't really feel the stakes. I didn't actually expect like Ahsoka to lose, so that was pretty interesting. Obviously, she's alive in the world between worlds. I'll get to that later because holy moly, that was crazy. But yeah, like there's just so much in this episode. You know, there were a lot of rumors that Shin Hati was going to die because of the one image in the trailer that turned out actually she was just like knocked out by Ahsoka. There was I did hear kind of the rumors about Marok. I watched a little video by Den of Nerds today that kind of went over that, so it was not a shock to me. Wasn't really like a disappointment in any way. And a lot of people were really on the Star Killer train. I haven't actually played. I believe he's in Force Unleashed. I have not played that, so I don't really have this big attachment to Star Killer. So it wasn't really a big deal to me. He just, you know, a nameless Sith or Sith spirit or whatever he actually was. Not really a big deal. He was kind of the character to kill off. I'm glad that he was the one to go and not Shin Hati. I feel like she's a much more interesting, kind of crazy wild card character. I like that in her duel with Sabine, again, Sabine did not win. Sabine could not use the Force like Sabine tried to use the Force. It was kind of like the not Rey moment, if you will, because there was that huge moment in The Force Awakens where Rey like called the lightsaber, and it was this crazy thing, and people were like, how did she do that? And that kind of started the Mary Sue conversation, which I'm not going to get into. But this was really like the anti-Rey moment, because Sabine was literally like trying to do the same thing, and she could not, and Shin Hati was just like, yeah, you got no powers. But then I like that Sabine actually like used her Mandalorian weapons, and that was really cool to see that she kind of like stalemated the fight, forced Shin Hati to retreat. But no, that was an awesome fight. I was really excited to see that fight. Honestly, like it was like shifts. Excuse me. I just have all kinds of weird stuff going on. It's what happens when you don't feel right. It's like you got the hiccups, you got the coughs, you got the yawns. It's just all a mess up in here. But I'm just so excited about Star Wars again that I just keep talking. Because yeah, I'm excited about Star Wars right now. I'm really excited about Star Wars. Like I haven't felt this excited about Star Wars since, I don't know, guess Rogue One was probably the last time I was like this jazzed about Star Wars. I thought I was going to be with Mando Season 3. There was some great stuff in Mando Season 3, but it was really uneven in many ways. So it's just not like that banger that Seasons 1 and 2 were. But Ahsoka, man, Ahsoka is solid. Not sure exactly where I'd rank it in the TV shows. Yeah, I will say the live action TV shows, because Clone Wars is always going to be the best in my opinion. Just like if we're ranking all the TV shows, because there's so much of it, so many great stories. But going back to Ahsoka, I'm not sure where I would rank it, like with Mando or Andor. Trying to think if there's any other. No, I think that's all the live action TV shows, unless I'm forgetting one. But not, yeah. Oh, Book of Boba Fett, yeah. Which I sort of think of as Mando as well, even though it's not. But that one would definitely rank lowest, I know that. Probably Ahsoka's somewhere up there with Mando Season 1 and 2. Maybe a little bit higher, but I'll see kind of how the whole thing progresses. Oh, Obi-Wan too. Also, that one would rank just above Book of Boba Fett for me. Andor, I loved Andor so much. It doesn't necessarily hold the deep rewatch value in a sense. It's just a little bit slower, but it was a really great first watch, and I would probably watch it again in like a year or two when I've forgotten. But I'm not actually here to rank TV shows. I'm trying to talk about Ahsoka. Point being, Ahsoka ranks pretty high for me. Even though episode 3 wasn't the strongest for me, episodes 1 and 2 were freaking bangers. Probably on a rewatch, episode 3 is a necessary episode, and things are going to come into play that you're like, okay, that's why that happened, and that's the setup, and I see what that was. That was brilliant. But yeah, give me 1 second, guys. Just gotta check a quick message. That's what happens when you're live. But yeah. Let me see. What am I talking about, man? What am I talking about? Ahsoka. Let's go ahead and jump to the World Between Worlds, because that was crazy. First crazy thing was that Ahsoka, she fell off. Like, she didn't die, but, Balon, like, freaking pushed her off and she went down. I loved the moment in the duel before that when she thought that Sabine was dead, and you saw her kind of tap into a little bit of the dark side there. That wasn't just me, I don't think, who saw that. Like, I think Ahsoka was tapping into the dark side just a little bit. She was getting kind of pissed, and I loved that moment. That was a great little moment, actually. That was really, really cool to see that little nuance. I thought that was just chef's kiss. There's so many, like, little details. It was also really cool, like, when she grabbed the orb, the key, like, it was hot. That's like a little detail that most people wouldn't necessarily think of, but I really like that was like, oh yeah, of course, that's drawing a lot of power. That's gonna be hot. And that's gonna burn your hand. So that was a great little moment there. There was just a lot of great moments in this show, in this episode, really. Like, okay, so let's jump World Between Worlds. I'm sure I'll jump back in the episode as I remember things, but having just watched it, like, processing it is crazy, absolutely crazy. But for me, I thought we weren't going to get any World Between Worlds until episode 5, maybe, because that's kind of some of the rumors I've been hearing. But they teased us with it. I thought they were just going to end it with, like, the shot, flying over, so we saw, like, the ocean, and, like, there's nothing, and that's where it was going to end. But nope, it ends. Ahsoka wakes up. Ahsoka hears freaking Anakin Skywalker. Holy freaking moly. And we see freaking Anakin Skywalker. Now, the CGI, de-aging, not perfect, but do I give a fuck? No, I do not. Sorry, that was language. I'm excited. I do not give a F about if it looked perfect or not, because it's freaking Ahsoka seeing freaking Anakin Skywalker again for the first time, like, as Anakin Skywalker since the Clone Wars, and the first time ever since their duel, in Rebels. So it's like freaking crazy. I'm really, really curious. I love that it ended with like the Darth Vader theme. I wonder if this Anakin is going to be light side, dark side. Um, Ram Koda's theme. I have to go back and look and see what that theme is. But I haven't talked about the music, so that's a great point. Like the music is on point in Ahsoka. Like I really love the score. It's not like a crazy score, but like everything fits really well. It heightens the emotion. I like it better than like the Obi-Wan score. Like that one was hit or miss, partly because I wish that they'd used more prequel trilogy music in Obi-Wan. But this, I feel like it works really well with Ahsoka. I feel like they're just hitting all the music really, really nicely with Ahsoka. So, you know, again, it's not quite like a John Williams score where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna like put that on and just like listen to this for hours. But it's a nice score. Oh, that's a really interesting theory, Leon. That is a really interesting theory that I hadn't even thought of yet. That's actually quite possible that like there is something else, like it could be the sun or it could be some other evil entity. You know, it could even be like the Emperor's spirit or who knows what it is, but super cool to like I know like that's probably going to be the thing this week that everybody's speculating on is like what is going on with Anakin and is it Anakin and you know what's going to happen with Ahsoka in the world between worlds and I'm really curious to see. I'm really going to try not to like look up spoilers cuz I don't want to like be spoiled. I did see a few spoilers for this episode. Nothing got like ruined at all, but like I don't want to like go in knowing everything and having expectations because it's so much cooler when you like go in without that many expectations other than kind of what the show itself presents you. So I really enjoyed that quite a bit. So I'm really going to try and avoid like actual spoilers, leaks, that kind of stuff because I don't want to know. I want to go in blind or as blind as possible. You know, I may end up seeing something in a video or something, but that is an interesting question. I'm wondering about that too. To me, it seemed kind of like Ahsoka was just so distracted with everything going on with Sabine that she just kind of maybe lost some focus and Balon was able to, you know, get her on the edge and push her off. Because it wasn't exactly like it was like a clean kill kind of stroke. She just ran out of ledge and he pushed her off when she wasn't really expecting it. I'd have to kind of watch it again though to make sure that that's actually what happened because that's just like what my brain processed at the time. So don't quote me that that's exactly the sequence of events, but I feel like what I saw was that Ahsoka, you know, she was on the edge, she was distracted, that, oh, she thinks Sabine is dead, she's kind of getting a little dark sidey, she's getting mad, she sees Sabine is alive, she tells Sabine to destroy the little orb, and Sabine doesn't do it, Balon takes the opportunity and shoves her off. So that's at least what I think happened. I don't necessarily think he would be like stronger if it was a fair fight. Like in the sense of like Ahsoka wasn't distracted and Ahsoka wasn't on the edge of a ledge kind of thing. But they were pretty evenly matched. Like he was definitely a beast of a fighter. I think Ahsoka had a little more finesse and fanciness, but he had like the strong swings and the really steady stance and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of my thoughts on kind of why that went down. Would be really interesting though. I mean, Dave Filoni loves Plo Koon, so somehow Plo Koon doesn't get woven into this series. I feel like that's going to be a real disappointment. Like I'm like, we got to get some Plo Koon in here, even like just mentioned. Because I feel like especially since Balon didn't die, like we've got to have more story with Balon. We've got to get more backstory. You know, he definitely was kind of teasing it out with Ahsoka with, you know, Anakin spoke very highly of you and kind of like bringing up some of that stuff. He's clearly very, very connected to the Jedi still. Like it's still very much a part of him. He's not kind of like Anakin, for example, who when he became Darth Vader, there was nothing. He did not want anything to do with the Jedi, nothing like that. Um, so, so I think it's quite possible, and I hope that we get into more of that, like who was his master, what happened with Order 66, kind of some of those details about his life, a little bit more about Shin Hati. I definitely want to know about her. I hope, since Ray Stevenson has passed away, that there's some kind of closure to Balon's story. Obviously, they didn't film it with that in mind, so there might not be, and it might be one of those things that they have to write around if there's a season 2. But I hope that like his full story gets told, because I mean, Ray Stevenson, fantastic actor, and he definitely deserves that kind of, I guess closure to the story. I would love to see that closure to the story. So yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on that, Leon. I love the comments. They help me like not just like, I still ramble a little bit, but not quite as much as I do if there's nobody on the stream. Sorry, 1 second. Just posting the live stream out to folks so that maybe we can get another person or two in here. But we will definitely see. But anyway, coming back to you guys, let's see. We've talked about World Between Worlds. We talked a little bit about Balon. We talked a little bit about Shin Hati. She's very interesting still. There was a lot of rumors that she was going to die in this episode, and I'm really, really happy that she did not. I think that would have been a waste of the character for me. I was very happy that like Marok was the one who went, because he really was an empty shell. He literally was an empty shell. And I just, like I said earlier in the stream, I was not that into the Starkiller thing because I'm not as familiar with Starkiller. So I was not like all on that hype train like a lot of people were. So I was not disappointed. I'm like, well, he gone. Another Inquisitor bites the dust. But I find the Dark Jedi much more interesting than him for the very little character that he had. And I think that was the right choice because someone had to go. But I think it was a good choice that it was not Shin Hati or Balon. I think that would have been a disservice to the characters and the actors and what they're, I think, building to. I'm really interested to Shin Hati's story. Like, I feel like we got to get something because she just a crazy biatch. I love that she like was like trying to choke and kill Sabine, like after the duel, after Sabine surrendered. She clearly like has a little bit of a vendetta. She mad, and she's definitely, I feel like, more dark side than Balon. I feel like he definitely like rides that line. I feel like she's just much more leaning into the pure darkness. I'm curious, like, since Sabine did get captured, I didn't even talk about that yet. There's so much that happened in this episode. Oh my gosh. But like for real, Sabine, oh yeah, Sabine getting captured. I thought that was a really interesting moment because that played differently than it normally does in that kind of thing. Where, you know, the character has to choose, and do they do the right thing or the wrong thing? And usually they, at the last minute, do the right thing and, you know, bust out the bad guy and like start fighting and do crazy stuff, and somehow like they save the day. Like you think, oh, they're gonna surrender. Oh no, what? They're gonna go with the bad guy. And Sabine actually did, and I really liked that. And it wasn't a selfless thing like Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. Like, it was a selfish thing. Like, she should have destroyed it. She should have destroyed the orb. And, you know, Ahsoka probably, if she had destroyed the orb immediately, Ahsoka wouldn't have fallen off the edge. They wouldn't have had, you know, the ability to jump between the world, you know, between the galaxies. a lot of shenanigans that are gonna happen wouldn't have happened. So like it was a very selfish move on Sabine's part all around. And I like that because it helps not Mary Sue trope when Sabine is making these mistakes. Sabine can't use the Force. Sabine can't, she's not making all the right decisions. She's doing some dumb stuff. I like that we learned what went on. We learned that Sabine's parents, her whole family was killed. I'm presuming that was probably during the purge by Gideon. I hope that we get a little bit more into that because Balon said it's because Ahsoka didn't trust her. So I'm hoping that we're going to get some of what's up, presumably some of what happened during like the original trilogy, because presumably Ahsoka was training Sabine kind of during the original trilogy, during the purge, all of that kind of stuff that happened after Star Wars Rebels ended. So I'm hoping that we're going to at least get some conversation that goes deeper into that, because that's really interesting. That's really cool. Can't believe I'm 25 minutes in and still thinking of new things that I haven't even touched on in the stream, because this episode, literally, like, this episode was freaking packed with greatness. It's definitely my favorite episode of Ahsoka. But yeah, it's wild the amount of like information drops, and I don't know if they're going to go more into it, but I really hope that they do. Like, I feel like at some point they've got to touch on the relationship between Ahsoka and Sabine and what really happened, what really went wrong, rather it's through a flashback or a little bit of a deeper conversation. I don't know, but I would definitely be really, really excited to see that in a little bit more depth, for sure. But yeah, so I think unless I can think of something else or anybody has any comments, I'd be very, very probably going to wrap this stream up, but I am very excited for next week. Everybody says episode 5 is like the mind blower of the series, kind of like every season has like that one episode that's like everybody's favorite, and episode 5 is what people are saying for Ahsoka. I don't know. I will see. For me, episode 4 so far has been the absolute banger. Obviously, we're going to get some crazy world between worlds. We're probably going to see the other galaxy. I'm presuming that they're probably going to get to it and not waste a ton of time on hyperspace travel, unless some real interesting shenanigans happen on the ship. That's kind of my presumption. Not really sure what Hera is going to be up to, since Hera has left. I mean, since Hera was left behind. Like, I thought, if I was making a prediction, like, that at least part of Phoenix Squadron was going to be able to, like, land on the ring before it jumped and go with them. But no, like, they completely failed. They entirely, completely failed. So I'm not really sure, like, where Hera's story is going to go. Like, if she's going to get busted by the New Republic, lose her titles and stuff and have to, like, deal with everything like that. If she's going to kind of be sidelined for an episode until everybody gets back from the distant galaxy. I'm really curious, like, where is that story going to go? Because in many ways, as of now, other than to pick up Hu Yang, it seems like Phoenix Squadron did not really do anything. They didn't succeed at anything. They didn't move the plot forward at all. But being Dave Filoni, being kind of how this show goes, I think we're probably going to see what the repercussions are, and they're going to propel the story forward. I've got a lot of faith in this show. Like, I had episode 1, I had episode 3 that I thought, ooh, that went down a little bit. This went right back up. Episodes 1 and 2 were fabulous. I'm sure there's things that the really nitpicky people can pick apart. But I'm a Star Wars fan. I want to like Star Wars. Like, if Star Wars is entertaining me, if it's not being real funky, if it's not like breaking the lore and disrespecting the characters that I love, I'm gonna like Star Wars. like for reals. I'm gonna like Star Wars. So that's kind of, my take on it. But yeah, I loved this episode insanely much. We are about at the 30-minute mark. So before I ramble on and say absolutely nothing for another 5 or 10 minutes, have a fantastic day. I will be back next Tuesday night, Central Standard Time, probably around 10, 11, midnight. I don't know, depending on what time I can actually watch the show, to bring you my immediate thoughts after the show. So have a great one, and I will catch all of you very soon. Ending the stream now.